For some reason or other, people who talk about flying saucers and related subjects never cease to fascinate our audience. So we've invited the editor of the Saucer News, Mr. James Moseley, here tonight to tell us about not only the unidentified flying objects, but a most amazing story he writes about. This hard-to-believe tale is about the Mothman of West Virginia. He's supposed to look like a big bird, has huge red eyes, an 8-foot wingspread. And get this, he loves to chase cars down the highways at 80 or 90 miles per hour.
Well, Joe, that's quite right. I have about 10 clippings about this.
10 clippings?
Yes, and I've explored the area myself and talked to some of the people down there. There's no doubt that there is some phenomenon, some bird, if you will, that is very different from any bird that I've ever heard of.
You think it could be maybe a giant crane that just escaped from the cranium?
Well, some people have said it might be a crane, but these are not the people that have seen it. In fact, the most interesting story of all involved a man whose dog was apparently kidnapped by this giant bird. The man was in his home one evening watching television when he saw some disturbance on the set. And when he went outside, he saw two glaring eyes about 6 inches apart standing out in the darkness. So the dog became very frightened. Its hair stood up on end, but it nevertheless ran out into the darkness and followed these eyes. The next day, they found tracks going out into that field and ending at a certain point, the dog's tracks, and that was the end of the dog, but no tracks of the bird. Now, this is one of the stories that I've published in Saucer News because we're interested not only in flying saucers, which many people today are interested in, but we're interested also in any offbeat story, if you like, anything that's beyond our common experience. That would include the Mothman, for instance, or any of several other categories of monsters, the Loch Ness Monster, for instance.
Well, do you really believe that there's a man with an 8-foot wingspread and red eyes?
Well, I only know what the witnesses tell me.
But do you believe it?
I believe that they're quite sincere. Now, they could have made a mistake, but I don't think so. Well, and by the way, the wingspan is 10 feet, not 8.
Oh, it's 10 feet.
And the size of the being is about the size of an average-sized man. Now, how it got the name Mothman, I don't know. Some clever person in the newspapers probably made that particular term up. All I know is the sightings or the facts. Just as in anything in flying saucers or in any of these other offbeat fields,
so
we only
you
take the
tend to
facts.
believe it. You tend to credit
I tend to credit the witnesses as knowing what they saw.
When you were a little boy, did somebody bend the metal on your erector set? Huh?
I can't recall if they did or not.
Have you ever been afflicted with bad dreams?
No, not for many years. In fact, I enjoy my work, which is publishing a magazine on offbeat subjects, and I find that it's an interesting field. You meet interesting people, and you rarely meet the crackpot, very rarely.
Very rarely meet the crackpot.
That's right. Of course, there are a few, but most of these people, 95% of them are sincere people who just report what they see. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mothman, wherever you are. Well, if you've never seen the Mothman yourself, why do you believe that a Mothman exists?
Well, I've never seen China, but I believe China exists.
I heard a commercial the other day where they talked about Fred Frump, the tap-dancing weightlifter who was picked up by a giant eagle on the beach and carried away.
I haven't heard that story.
But if you heard it, would you believe it?
Well, I'll tell you, I might if several people told the same experience. In other words, you reach the point where it is more unlikely that this number of people could be mistaken than it is that they're telling the truth. You have to go by the weight of evidence like you do in any scientific investigation. And in Saucer News, I try to be scientific in the whole thing. Some stories I reject because I can't substantiate them. Some stories I accept personally, and some stories I just print because they are of a informative value to the reader.
Now, on this Mothman story, do you think that you possibly could be influenced because you've watched too many Batman episodes?
I hate Batman. I never watch it.
You hate Batman?
That's right. I don't like
Wait a minute, there's a clue right there. He hates Batman. Now wait. Now we're going to get to the bottom of something. I wonder if that has anything to do with the way your eyebrows flick up and down sometimes when you talk.
Might well have something to do with that.
Now tell me, how long have you hated Batman?
Ever since he made his comeback recently on TV, I don't go for fiction or science fiction. I'm just interested in facts.
You just like the facts, right?
That's
like
right.
like a 10-foot wingspread on a man, a good solid fact that you can get your teeth into, right?
I'm glad
With red eyes bugging out there,
I'm glad
right?
you said 10 foot instead of 8, because I'd like to keep the facts straight.
There must be a reason why you hate Batman.
Well, I just think it's a waste of time. I don't really hate Batman.
No, you said you hated Batman. How do you feel about Robin?
I feel about the same way about Robin, I'd say.
You hate a little boy? Huh?
I think it's a waste of time. I think that there are genuine mysteries in our world which the thoughtful person will take an interest in. And I don't think that everybody should publish a magazine as I do, but certainly they can take the trouble to read these offbeat things in the newspapers, in the magazines, on shows such as this, which are very kind to expose these subjects to the public, I think, which is an important service. If people are not interested in this kind of thing at all, then they just get caught in the humdrum routine of their daily lives, and they don't think beyond that. And I think it's a great mistake not to be interested in the offbeat.
Do you hate anybody else besides Batman?
Well, they're only fictional beings. I don't hate any actual person, I don't think.
You don't hate the actor who plays Batman?
No, indeed. I think it's a good job, probably. Well-paying job.
Yeah. You're also involved with flying saucers.
That's my main interest, but as I say, I go off into these things such as the monsters that have been seen around the world.
You're more partial to monsters, actually.
More partial to saucers, to UFOs, as I call them, than to monsters. May I say, by the way, in regard to UFOs, that they have finally been vindicated in a very recent issue of the Saturday Evening Post.
Yeah, I read it. I don't think they've been vindicated.
Well, may I say that the scientific consultant to the Air Force, the chief scientific consultant, has now stated categorically that he believes that they're either from another planet or they are a totally unknown natural phenomena.
You know what I think? I think he hung around with this whole investigation so long that it began to get to him. Somehow.
20 years he spent on this, and I think that as the time went by, the
20
evidence,
years, yeah.
The evidence started to convince him.
I wonder if he hates Batman. I'll tell you what, you have a film of a flying saucer episode here. Can we roll that film? Oh, we'll do it right after the commercial, shall we? We have a word. When we come back, you will see what this man has brought to us, about 40 seconds of film, presumably showing flying saucers in action. Stand by. Exactly what will we see as this film rolls?
Well, this is about 35 seconds of actual flying saucer footage taken in a little town called Lost Creek, West Virginia. And it's an amateur film. You can see right away that there are parts of it that do not actually show the saucer. It's an attempt to follow a craft which is about to land in that area. So as it rolls, you just have to ignore the first few seconds where you don't see anything, and then the next 15 or 20 seconds you see the craft moving about in the trees.
All right, let's roll the film and take a look at it, shall we? What are we seeing here now? Just the trees, huh?
Yes. Now, you'll see the saucer in just a moment. I don't know. Yes, there it is.
That's a saucer, huh?
And this lasts for about 10 or 15 seconds. Of course, it's an amateur thing, as I say. So it's not, well, if it were a fake, it would not be done this poorly as far as technical skill is concerned. That's my opinion.
You know what it looked like to me? Somebody threw a mushroom over a tree. I remember a program we did one time, and a man showed some film and of an actual saucer that he went to, I believe it was the planet Venus in. And as we looked at it, it looked very good. It looked better than your film. It really was moving out. And he said, they picked me up in the desert and took me out. We had it analyzed, and it turned out that he had actually gone to the planet Venus in the top of a vacuum cleaner. That's what it was.
Well, let me say that there is some fakery, but not in film. Very hard to do. I've talked to so many people about that, still pictures can be faked, and there are many around that are not worth much, but the movies are something more serious,
well,
and I think
now
this is genuine.
You say it's difficult to fake things with film. Anybody who ever saw The Day the Earth Stood Still could swear that this flying saucer was flying right into Washington, D.C. They could see it land.
Well, Joe, the thing is, that's an expensive job. What did that cost them? Hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that? Mm-hmm. That's animation that's done by professionals.
Well, it can be done.
Well, if you have a bankroll like a movie house.
You also believe in little people, don't you?
Yes, I do. I think there's a high probability that there have been seen throughout this country over a period of time and throughout the world in the last 20 years, there are 200 or 300 cases in which creatures 3 to 5 feet high have been seen getting out of flying saucers.
The Billy Barty Squadron. Huh?
Now, to believe a thing like that would only come to me after studying a great number of cases. It took me many years before the balance of evidence was, for me, enough to make me feel that these are probably true.
Are they little green men?
No, they are never green, Joe. People say that as a joke, but they're never green. They are...
Well, what are we going to do with all the little green women?
I don't know about them either. It's news to me.
We have a surplus of them if we have no little green men.
No, it's really interesting how people who don't read newspapers, Joe... I am what is called, in the field of flying saucer research, a conservative person, because I don't believe the other people who, as you've intimated, claim to have flown to other planets or who have been out in space before our astronauts were able to get there. These are the people who wrote books and made lots of lectures and, in some cases, lots of money, and who were a small minority of about a dozen people, most of them from California, by the way. And I think that they had obvious motives for gilding the lily, to make it a very mild statement. However, most people...
In other words, most of these people are kooks but you.
A dozen kooks, and then there's about 5 million people in this country who have seen flying saucers, according to a recent Gallup poll. And they are not necessarily kooks. This is a cross-section of the country, including scientists, pilots.
Poll. Wasn't that the poll that said that Thomas Dewey was elected over Truman?
Different poll. This was very recent. It said, I forget the exact percentage, about 6 or 7% of the entire country have seen saucers, and over 50% think that they very likely come from another planet.
Let's go to the doc now. There's a man who's standing here, has something I suppose to say to you. Would you state your name, sir?
My name is Bob Myers, and getting back to this Mothman, could you tell me how many witnesses there were who saw this?
I have about a dozen witnesses. There was a group of 4 the first time, and after that there was another group of 4 about 100 miles from there. I'd say about a dozen.
They weren't all related then? Huh?
No, they didn't even know each other. These came out different days over a period of several weeks. In fact, I think it's still going on in that portion of West Virginia.
But still, that doesn't make it fact, does it?
Well, it makes it very probable as far as I'm concerned.
No, but you said to Joe that it was a fact. You said, I only believe in facts.
That's right. That's what you said.
Well, I know what I see, I'm positive of. What other people see, I can only take the weight of evidence about. I would certainly, if I have a choice, say I do believe them.
Okay.
Thank you. We have somebody else here for the doc. Would you state your name, please?
I'm Bessie T. Arthur, the space lady.
Space lady.
Yes. Well, I'm known as that. They started calling me that in various states of United States. I wanted to say, Joe, I don't quite like the way you're treating this man. He's on a legitimate subject, and we're all very vitally interested in this. The government knows about this, and King Jackie's is back here, and he's mad at you, too. I do think that we should give a man a chance to express himself and to give his opinion and not, be belittled.
Now, hold on just a moment. Do you like the way you're being defended here?
Well, the lady is a very kind person, and I appreciate her opinion of support.
Well, now let's analyze the type of person who's defending you for just a moment. Have you ever been in outer space?
Yes, I have.
I didn't say I believed her. I said she's a very kind lady who I appreciate the help
Wait a minute.
Where have you been in outer space?
Wait a minute. I have proved this before scientists. Scientists have stood up and been amazed. And one scientist said, I don't know how you did it, lady, but you must have on there because you have all the answers.
Well, how about answering this question? Where was it you were in outer space?
I was at the planet Clarion, which is on the other side of the sun.
Joe, there's a problem about Clarion. I've heard of it before. It's situated...
Well, I suppose you have, yes.
It's situated in such a way that you can never see it. And, of course, I don't guess you've heard of Clarion because...
Oh, yes, I've heard of Clarion. There was a man here one day, he said he was King Jackie from Clarion, who had his space coupe parked down the street and couldn't get his money exchanged.
Well... I don't know about that, but I personally...
Oh, I've heard of Clarion.
I personally don't believe in anybody from Clarion, actually.
Oh, yes.
Lady, you were just put down by our guest.
Pardon me?
He just put you down. He said he doesn't believe in anybody from Clarion.
Well, you see, I'm used to proving myself all the time.
Yeah, but here's a man who believes in Mothman and little people, and you stand there before him and he can't believe you.
Well...
Would you believe Mars?
You know, I'll get it back at him.
More likely.
You know, I'll get it back at him. You know, the Mothman is a crane, and it comes from the cranium.
I think you said that, Joe.
Ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling-a-ling,
Yeah.
ding-a-ling.
All right. Now,
Take a walk. That reminds me, do you think we could shoot the Mothman down with a can of giant flit? Huh?
Doubt it very much.
Uh-huh.
He flies at 100 miles an hour. You'd never be able to.
The Mothman flies at 100 miles an hour?
Yes, in the one case, he chased an automobile at that speed. 4 people said so.
Did he get it?
No, he just hovered over it as they drove along from 90 to 105 miles an hour for a period of about 4 or 5 miles down the road. This was in all the papers in West Virginia. Yeah.
I'll just bet it was.
It
Would
was.
you state your name, please?
Jenny Spinello. And I just have one question. I want to know who measured the wingspan.
It was an estimate, obviously, by the
Well,
witnesses.
you got mad when Joe said 8 feet. You said it was definitely 10. I
I was
just
just
want to know
trying
who
to bug
measured.
Joe because I had a feeling he might be
Bug
trying
me,
to
get
bug
it?
me.
Moth, bug, get it?
I was
For
just
all I know,
wondering,
this
you
guy's
know,
going to walk outside, strap his wings on, and fly away from here.
Well, that was the only question I had. I just wondered, you know, if you wanted things so factual, how you got
No,
there.
these are always estimates. It's the same with flying saucers. People say they saw something at a distance of a quarter mile and with a diameter of 40 feet. Of course, they might be wrong by 20% or something. You never know.
You're expecting a child.
Yes,
When?
any day.
Any day?
Yeah.
You stand there in my dock threatening me any day? Any moment? You don't think this conversation could affect the thinking of your child, do you?
No, I don't think it'll be that quick.
Good luck to you. Thank you very much. Well, I suppose you're anxious to remove your navel and get back into orbit.
Well, I appreciate the kindness of the interview, and I am very glad to have been here.
Well, if you say that, then I'm really worried about you. If you say you're glad to have been here, then you've got me concerned.
I've enjoyed it very much.
You really have.
I really have.
Woo! We'll be back with another guest after these words. Stand by.